A high school senior was declared brain dead after she and 3 other people were shot during a party over the weekend. We're explaining how this shocking case unfolded as the sheriff's office says they already have a suspect in custody. This is Inside the Crime presented by Law&Crime. I'm Elizabeth Millner. This is a Law&Crime legal alert. There are allegations claiming that online apps like DraftKings and FanDuel are engineered for addiction. These multi-billion-dollar companies allegedly continue to put profit over safety. Every free bet, every boosted parlay, and every small payout triggers a dopamine rush that creates dependency and turns harmless fun into a detrimental habit. They keep you hooked, chasing impossible wins, and trap you in a cycle that can lead to significant financial loss and ultimately damage your mental health. Our legal sponsors are taking on the online gambling industry to potentially get compensation for all those impacted. If you or a loved one has suffered addiction, financial hardship, or mental health issues due to sports betting apps, visit gamblinglawsuits.com/insidethecrime to take a short quiz and check your eligibility to file a claim. The family of the 18-year-old victim said the doctors only gave her days to live after she was shot in the head. But there are a lot of questions left unanswered, like why did a 27-year-old allegedly bring a gun to a bonfire that was for high school seniors? According to those who knew her, 18-year-old Kimber Mills was just all around a good person with a bright future. She was set to graduate in just a few months. She even reportedly had her college of choice all picked out. She was going to attend the University of Alabama next year, and she was going to be a nurse. Kimber seemed to be enjoying the last bit of being in high school with her friends before taking that next step. Even in high school, she seemed to excel. She was a cheerleader. She ran track. Classmates described her as such a kind person who went out of her way to help anyone. One classmate told WVTM in Alabama, "You can just start up a conversation with her, no matter what. It was always just a delight to talk to her." Another classmate told the outlet, "She's the type of person too, if you run out of money and you don't have enough, she'll definitely give you money. If you don't have something, she'll give you something. She's the type of person too, if you're sad, she'll give you the love that you need. If you need a hug, she'll give you a hug." But on October 19th, what was supposed to be a fun bonfire with friends ends with multiple people being rushed to the hospital. According to the Jefferson County Sheriff's Office, they were dispatched to an area known locally as the Pit. It's a rural stretch of area in Jefferson County, Alabama, where a lot of teenagers go. On that night, it was senior night. So picture bonfire, music, your friends. That's how the night was supposed to be. Then a little after midnight, deputies were called because multiple people had been shot, including 18-year-old Kimber. So what happened? Kimber's sister told AL.com Kimber was at the party with their other sister. That's when 27-year-old Steven Tyler Whitehead showed up. Kimber and her friends reportedly had no idea who he was. But it seemed like, according to Kimber's sister, he found one of her friends attractive. He reportedly was trying to get close to her, offering her drinks, but Kimber's friend had a boyfriend. According to the report, a fight broke out between multiple people. Then all of a sudden, shots were fired. Kimber was caught in the crossfire and was shot in the head, and a friend rushed her to the hospital where her condition was critical. According to the sheriff's office, she wasn't the only one struck by bullets at the party. A 21-year-old man was injured, a 20-year-old woman was injured, and so was another 18-year-old. The sheriff's office said in a statement, "Preliminary investigation indicates that a verbal and physical altercation escalated, resulting in gunfire. 3 of the victims are expected to make a full recovery, but that wasn't the same case for Kimber, who was shot in the head and also the leg." According to her sister Ashley, doctors gave Kimber only days to live. Ashley Mills told AL.com, "She has too much trauma to her brain. She is breathing on her own with an assisted breathing machine. There is no surgery that would give her a life worth living." According to Kimber's sister, it would be a miracle for her to survive, but if she does, she would have to be on a breathing and feeding tube for the rest of her life. She told the outlet, "We've opted to just let her body do what it needs to do. We do have her on a DNR because we don't want to hurt her anymore trying to bring her back. We've already got it set up for her to be an organ donor because that's what she wanted. As soon as her brain is done swelling to its max point, it will eventually cause brain death. That's when they will declare her deceased and then do her honor walk and organ donation." It's a devastating reality because instead of celebrating her final year of high school, now her family is preparing to say their final goodbyes to her. Jefferson County deputies did arrest 27-year-old Steven in connection to the shooting. Officials charged him with murder, accusing him of being the one who pulled the trigger, but authorities say additional charges are pending. Tuesday night, the case took another devastating turn. Kimber's family confirmed she was taken off life support, but in her final act of kindness, Her family says she donated her organs to those in need. This post was shared to Facebook. It reads in part, "Dear Heavenly Father, we gather in a profound moment of sorrow and shock, standing together to mourn the bright, beautiful life of Kimber Mills, which was tragically and senselessly taken. The grief they bear is heavy, and the void she leaves behind feels immeasurable. We lift up to you with deep gratitude and reverence the remarkable final act of her life, her decision to be an organ donor. In the face of tragedy, Kimber chose generosity, becoming a lifesaver and offering a miraculous second chance to others. Bless the recipients of her precious gifts. May her organs bring restored health, validity, and hope, allowing her spirit to live on in their continued journey. Let this ultimate act of love transform darkness into light and despair into an enduring miracle." The community came together for that final act of kindness. They packed the hospital to say their goodbyes, and as you can imagine, it was an emotional final goodbye. Under the video posted to social media, Kimber's sister wrote, "Our sweet baby sister went to be with the Lord at 7:08 last night. She has had the biggest gathering for Honor Walk the dog has ever seen. She was and is so loved by so many. We will miss you, Kimber." I'm joined now by a great guest to break this down even further, and that's trial attorney and federal litigator Alexis Rosenberg. Alexis, thank you so much for joining me. This case is really heartbreaking. This is a high school senior. She was just months away from graduating. Now she's clinging on to life, but her family says there's really no chance of saving her. What's your reaction to this case?
Like you said, Elizabeth, it is heartbreaking. She goes to a party with a bunch of friends her senior year. This should have been a fun time in her life and so many things to look forward to. And now, unfortunately, she is in this situation and her family sounds like they're already in full-blown mourning process.
And even just what we know of the lead up to the shooting, from what we know, it was a fight over a girl. The suspect reportedly was trying to talk to, I guess, one of Kimber's friends. That friend told her boyfriend, then shots all of a sudden were fired. What's your reaction to just not necessarily the intent, but just how brazen this really was?
Well, it's very sad that we have teenagers, although the defendant in this case, it was slightly older, so why he was at what seems to be a high school party when I believe he was 24, 25 years old. There's a question about that as well. But what was the need to have a gun, as well as how quickly this just escalated from, somebody basically looking at their girl, and then there's a dispute to shots being fired.
And what's your reaction to the intent aspect of this all? The fact that the defendant did come to this party with a gun. I'm trying to figure out kind of what the intent was for even bringing it to what was supposed to be, I guess, this party, a high school party at that. Not sure why he brought the gun, but what are your thoughts on that? And can that, will that be used against him if this case were to go to trial?
So I'm not sure if he had a license for the gun. I also am not sure if Alabama is an open carry state. However, he had the intent, it's our understanding, or allegedly, to shoot the actual gun. I am not sure that he was charged with when you're getting into the premeditated part. It does not seem like this was premeditated, that he was going there based on what we know to shoot anyone. That wasn't his intent. But he did allegedly intend to shoot the gun. I guess allegedly at the individual who had looked at his girlfriend or at the girl. What is interesting about this case from a legal standpoint is that the girl, the victim at this particular time, has not passed. She's not
Right.
deceased. So we do believe that either they're in the process or it's going to happen that she will be pronounced brain dead. So we have someone here who has been charged with murder, but really we still have, and I hate to say it in this situation so coldly, but the body, she is still actually here. She hasn't been, she's not dead at this point as you and I, or it's my understanding, stand here. So the real legal interesting part is that someone can be charged with murder if the victim has been declared brain dead. And that is, something that you can be charged with murder if someone is declared brain dead in Alabama, even though I'm not licensed there. I did look this up because that wasn't interesting because, like you said, you started off, she is technically still alive as we sit here today.
Yeah, and do you think that that charge of murder was too premature? I see maybe down the line a defense attorney possibly poking holes in that charge, mainly because at the time he was charged, she is still considered to be technically alive, even though she's using an assisted breathing tube, all of that. But I am very curious your thoughts on whether or not the charge was too premature, even though, to your point, she is still technically alive.
I am going to assume that she has already gone there. There's a process to declare somebody brain dead. I'm going to assume that process had already taken place and she had officially been declared brain dead before the murder charges were filed by the prosecutor. I think that the communication we may be getting is that that had occurred and the family has not made the decision to actually take her off life support. Somebody can be declared brain dead, and at that point, they are actually considered dead, and still be on or declared dead, officially dead at that point, and still be on life support. It is a very interesting factor in this particular case. I'm going to assume that's what's happened and why we have the murder charges already being filed.
And what's also heartbreaking about this is that her family says that even if she were to survive this terrible, terrible injury to her head, a gunshot wound to her head, that she would still have to have an assisted breathing tube throughout the rest of her life. She wouldn't be able to function how she normally would if she were to survive. But say there is that one sliver of chance that miracles do happen and that she is able to survive it and she is able to live a productive and healthy life, all of that sort. What changes in the legal process in terms of maybe the charges that he faces? And I know I'm thinking a little too optimistically here, given that her family is kind of preparing to say their goodbyes as we're recording this. But if there were miracles out there, what chances does the defendant have, do you think, about getting that murder charge dropped?
So to declare somebody brain dead, there, like I said, there's a process. It was put in place many years ago, I think sometime in the 80s actually. And it's actually an act, it's a federal act on how you go about doing that. And then the Neurology Academy has come up with that. I have not heard of anybody once being declared dead that they come back. And so I don't think that that's going to happen. But hypothetically, let's say that did happen, then as a defense, if this person is somehow not brain dead, then yeah, that would kind of be in a defense attorney's miracle from God to them themselves as a case, because that would be a defense to the murder charge. See, the fact that that there is that ability to declare someone dead and then have the murder charge. Otherwise, we technically, there would be a question whether there was a dead person. I mean, that to put it very simply. But that would only be a defense to the murder charge if that miracle happened, because we still have him shooting a gun into a crowd, allegedly, and allegedly possibly shooting it directly at someone else. So the charges related to that would still stand. that would only really affect the murder aspect.
And I know we do talk a lot about Kimber Mills, but I do know also that there were multiple other people that were shot during this incident too. But do you think that, because I'm trying to think in terms of maybe some reconstruction or things like that as they're piecing together kind of what happened, that there might be a possibility others could be charged too? Do you think that could happen?
Well, I think there's also probably going to be other charges related to the other individuals being hurt and shot. I mean, we don't really have enough facts related to if other people were in on this, if somebody else, and I don't believe I have seen anything that anybody else pulled out a gun. I don't think there's any allegations that there were multiple people shooting guns. I don't think necessarily that is going to have other people come into this and be charged related to this situation. I do think there's probably going to be additional charges against the defendant because these other individuals were harmed.
And one thing, that I admired in a way about this story, because it really is horrific, is just how much the community came together to support the family of Kimber Mills as well as the other victims that were shot during this incident on over the weekend. What's your reaction to just the community and their outpouring of support for this 18-year-old girl who's about to lose her life, according to her family, as well as the other victims of this terrible shooting?
I mean, this is horrible. It's my understanding this was a tight-knit rural community where they were hanging out, was kind of a usual teenage hangout. I believe it was called the Pit.
Yeah.
So it wasn't unusual for them to be gathering there. And I think it is beautiful that the community is coming together to support this family that is really going through a parent's worst nightmare. I mean, you have your senior, you have all these high hopes for all the things that are going to happen. It is such a beautiful time in a child's life, their senior year of high school. And it really, truly is sad. And that's what we need to really focus on. And I'm glad the community is doing that on the family, helping them through this grieving process and being there. So that is such a beautiful thing that's taking place.
Yeah, because it's horrible to think about Kimber Mills. She should have been preparing for homecoming, later on prom, all of that fun last little bit of high school activities you can get before you go off to college. And from what we know, she was planning to go to college to become a nurse. She had just her whole life ahead of her, and then something tragic, terrible, and horrible like this happens, and now her family has to prepare for a possible funeral instead, and it's just completely heartbreaking. Alexis Rosenberg, I want to thank you so much for your insight into this case. I really appreciate your time today.
Elizabeth, thank you for having me as always.
Steven Whitehead remains in the Jefferson County Jail on no bond. It's unclear when his next court date is or if he's entered a plea. The other shooting victims are expected to survive. They are still reportedly recovering from their injuries. Thanks so much for joining us on this episode. I'm Elizabeth Millner, and this has been Inside the Crime.